I love taking cheap drum sets and converting them into things. If you saw my video on converting a cheap drum set into sort of the ideal jazz kit for a middle schooler, I was really happy with those. Another project, waiting on a friend of mine to get done doing a welding job for me. Thought I was all done with this whole cheap drum set series thing, and then I got a picture from my cousin. He just bought a house. In the attic, there's an old drum set up there, and he asked me if I wanted it, because I've been doing these videos. Said, yeah, that would be great. Hi, my name is Casey Drumas. I'm a music educator and composer, and on this channel we talk about things that help your music program thrive. Some people might wonder what in the world this is. I don't really play this very often. This is actually a replica, you could say, of my cousin Jesse's guitar. He had this old Warlock guitar, and him and his dad took it one weekend, sanded all the paint off of it, and then cut off this side. And I found this Warlock. Someone was selling it on Craigslist. It was a really cheap price. I did the same thing to it, and I don't really play it, but I have it hanging up in my room, and I look at it every day because it just reminds me of times back then when we got to jam a lot more. That really inspired me to try to modify my own equipment. So he dropped off these drums, and I really had no idea what I was going to do with them. Trying to think of things I could make for my wife's program that would be useful. First thing I thought of was, well, I'll make the bass drum into a marching bass drum. That makes sense. I started looking at this bass drum, and the first thing I noticed was that there were a lot of lugs missing. There was a lot of tension rods missing, and it just didn't have enough to complete two sides of the drum. Then I started looking in the shell, and I noticed that it was pretty severely damaged. There was a part that was completely bowing in, cracked. It seemed like there was a lot of seams that had been repaired, wood glued back together over time. It was just in really bad shape. Sometimes metal bands, the singers like to jump on top of the bass drum and jump off of it. I don't know why, but I think this thing has just been abused. And if it was stored up in an attic for a long time, it probably got a lot of abuse that way as well. A marching bass drum was just not gonna happen, and then it hit me. What every drumming nerd wants, the gong drum. The first time I really saw a gong drum was watching ACDC. They would do Thunderstruck. When they do Thunder, they have those big hits. The great Neil Peart had them as well. And I never thought I would ever have a gong drum. But after seeing all the damage, there was really nothing else I could do with it. So of course, the first thing is disassembling it, taking off all the hardware. Like I said, one side of the bass drum was cracked pretty severely, but the other side seemed like it was in okay shape. But I've seen old vintage drums that had a wooden strip that they would glue on the inside of the drum to help reinforce the drum so that it wouldn't crack or get bent as easily. So my idea was, I'm going to cut off the end of this bass drum that already is cracked, and then you have to shorten it just a little bit, so where that crack is, I'll just cut a little bit off of that, and then I can glue it into the bottom of that bass drum so that the part that was a little bit weaker will be stronger. I was going to have to clamp this in some way, so I figured I'm going to use tom arms. I had some old tom clamps that I put on there, and so I drilled those after. I really love contact paper for these things because it's super cheap. You can wrap a whole entire drum set with it, and it always looks uniform. So I can have a drum from one kit, a drum from another kit, and some drum that was found in a dumpster, and I can wrap them all, and they look pretty legit together. And it's the same way if you paint something yourself. So the bass drum altogether only had 10 lugs, so I wasn't going to be able to do two sides because I need 8 for each side. Luckily, I had enough to at least get that one side to get good lugs that look nice. I've refurbished other Pearl drum sets before, so I actually had some tension rods that matched. Switched some of those out for some of the old ones with the T on them. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there are tension rods for bass drums that come up and then there's a T on it, so you don't have to use a drum key. Only thing I don't like about that, at a school setting, there's going to be students who are sitting there messing with them. If you don't have the tension rods with that on it, they can't mess with it unless they have a drum key. And then they have to put a lot more effort into screwing up your tuning than they would just messing around saying they're tightening one tension rod for like 3 minutes until it breaks. My whole channel is based on if you can use these things for your music program, but would it be useful for your program? Yes, I think so. I know it's not conventional. I know there's going to be people who would say, no, you can't use that for your program. That's horrible. You have to use what resources you have. And I know a lot of small schools that they just think, I have no resources. There's nothing I can do. Don't sit there and say, well, I know there's this bass drum, but I'm not going to make a gong drum. What am I going to do with that? If you don't have something, do what you can. I've actually seen some people who use something like this to replace a timpani drum that they don't have. If you have a lot of percussionists and you just need something to be played, sometimes just using some big bass drums or some different things just to at least kind of get the idea of what a timpani is supposed to do, that would be better than just not having anybody play a timpani part. I'd watch videos of Neil Peart and just think, oh, that's so cool, I wish I could have one of those, and I never thought I would, and hey, now I do. It's pretty cool. I still have 3 toms to work with, and I am going to convert those into other things that you can use for your music program, and I'm excited to show you guys those things. What percussion instruments do you need in your program that you just can't get access to? I'd love to hear about that. Thank you guys so much. Have a good one. Till next time.